What's going on YouTube? Today's video we'll be reacting to every counter to the new R6 operator Rauora. This video is by Alka. I actually like watching his content. So if you guys enjoy me reacting and enjoy some new feedback and some tips and tricks, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below some video ideas you want me to do. If you don't know anything, different games you want me to play on stream. I'm doing a daily stream every day on Twitch of 2025. So if you guys want to go over there and watch it, it's right there. Ace Knows Ball.
We're going to be going over
Let's get right into the video.
every single counter for the new operator Rauora. Now, first of all, I want to go over interactions that they have with Mute. So if Mute puts a jammer on one side of the doorway like this, as you can see, I'm still able to pull my launcher out, but I'm not actually able to deploy my launcher until I leave the radius of the Mute jammer. So that is one counter. However, if I put my door on a door, just like this, the Mute jammer won't stop it from deploying, even if the Mute jammer is right next to it, because the signal it's trying to disrupt is the very top of it, and the Mute jammer won't reach that. So you can open and close it as much as you want to. The Mute jammer can't counter it unless you're within the radius trying to launch your door. Now, next up, one of the most obvious counters to these doors is if you place them, whether it is up or down. If someone puts a C4 on it and explodes it, obviously the gadget will get countered, but you still have 3 more of these you can use to redeploy. So it's not that big of a counter, but still can counter it nonetheless. One thing also to take note of is that when an attacker tries to undeploy a door, let's say that this closes and I want to open it, it takes exactly 1 second for me to open it, just like that. However, if a defender were to try to reopen it, it would take 3 seconds. As you can see, it's way slower. So that's just another thing to think about. The next counter I want to talk about to the new operator Rauora is Castle. So if Rauora obviously tries to place a door on a doorway with nothing on it, she's able to place it. It's very easy to do so, but there are 2 notable counters that you can use. If Castle, for instance, puts a barricade on a door, just like this, she's now not able to deploy her gadget on that door until she breaks it. Not only does this work for Castle barricades, but it also works for normal barricades as well, meaning all you have to do to counter this operator is put a barricade down and she can't deploy her gadget. Although she does bring guns to just shoot the barricade down, that way she can just deploy her gadget after, making it to where it's not that big of a counter. But Castle is still a pretty big counter, especially on maps like Bank where there's all these long angles you have to worry about that she can abuse. Castle can actually shut this operator down pretty easily. The next counter to this gadget is Jaeger. If Jaeger puts an ADS down somewhere on a doorway and I try to put my gate on that doorway, the Jaeger ADS will catch my gadget, effectively nullifying it completely. So as you see, when I tried to put it down, he EMP'd it and it made it to where it couldn't actually deploy. So that is another counter that you can use in your games. Not only does a B work when it's up, but if I want to put the doorway down, a BP shocking the top of it once it's deployed will actually undeploy the barricade. And it'll do it in 1 second compared to 3 seconds if you were to shoot it. So it's actually a really viable way to counter the new operator just by running BPs. The fact that Jaeger can bring both means that he can put ADSs in front of his BPs too. So Rauora can actually get countered pretty well by Jaeger. Now, one thing I want to go over as well is that Mozzie can actually counter this gadget pretty well. As you can see right now, the door is completely flush with the ground. But if an attacker were to throw a drone near the doorway, now the door opens up a little bit and the drone can drive through. So if Mozzie ends up taking the drone, as you can see right here, I now have full control on whether or not the door is flush to the ground or if it's open a little bit. Meaning that if I have a teammate who's like prone right here waiting for it to be opened, I can just Mozzie drone right next to it so it'll open and then he can shoot people's feet. So it's another counter you can use. Again, it'll close if it's not there and it'll open if it is, so you can drive through it. Echo cameras, you can do the exact same thing. You can fit echo cams through here as well, or any hacked drones from the attackers by Mozzie. Now, we went over how nitro cells can destroy these gadgets, and that goes for pretty much any other explosive in the game, which also includes impact grenades as well, which is why some of the most powerful operators to counter this operator are roamers, because roamers not only can flank you if you're not really putting these on your flanks, but also they typically have impact grenades to be able to flank these even if you do put these down. The next counter to this operator is Goyo. Now, if I, as the Rauora player, put my doorway on a door, just like this, if there's a Goyo player in sight with a Goyo canister in his hand, he can put his canister on the door, and then he can shoot the Goyo canister, which will explode my Rauora gates. This is because when a Goyo fire gets exploded, there's a little bit of explosion damage before the fire actually gets released and damages you with the fire. So it's both kind of sort of a Kapkan trap in a sense, and also fire, which is why Goyo is able to counter this operator. Now, just like earlier how we talked about how Jaeger can counter this device, so can Wamai. Normally with Wamai discs, when you throw something into it, it will actually explode the gadget or use the gadget once the Wamai disc is out, like a flash grenade or a frag grenade. But with Rauora's gadget, it's different. If I were to shoot Aurora gadget next to the Wamai disc here, it's just going to catch it and then destroy it. It's not actually going to deploy it. Even if I try to go pick it back up, it's not going to do anything. It literally just disappears like that. So Wamai is actually a great counter to this new operator, especially if you can find places to really hide these discs in wherever you want. This is a great counter to the new operator, in my opinion. Now, the next counter to this new operator is an Oryx dash. So if she were to put her gadget on doorways like this, an Oryx can literally just dash through it and still be able to dash around the other side too. That's the thing about these doorways, is they won't actually stop an Oryx in place like a soft wall would. As you can see, when I dash into a soft wall, it'll take damage from me and it'll stop me in track, effectively using the dash. But because this doesn't do damage or slow you down, you also have to be very careful when you Oryx dash into these to make sure you don't end up on the other side still dashing and then the Rauora player just blow your head off mid-animation. Next up, we have a lot of different interactions with the operator Aruni that I want to go over. So let's talk about that. First of all, if I put a Dom door on a doorway just like this, all Aruni has to do once it's done deploying is punch it, and she'll completely destroy it. So that's a great counter. Aruni is great to counter this. Also, if I'm trying to deploy, let's say, a Dom panel on the outside door and not the inside door, the Aruni Gate's going to stop me from being able to do that by catching the panel, which will counter it. Cool little tip, by the way, if there's two doorways and you don't know which one it's going to get placed on, if you ADS, it'll do it on the farther one, and if you un-ADS, it'll do it on the closest one. Little tip there. Now, if an Aruni Gate is on a door that you're trying to actually panel off, and you put a doorway on it like this, the Aruni Gate will destroy it. However, usually this doesn't happen. And that's because usually Aruni players will put their gadget on their side of the door. So what happens if you try to panel off an Aruni Gate that is on the opposite side of the door? Well, the Dom panel will actually go on the door, which means Aruni can't counter it. So you have to look at which side the Aruni Gate is on. If it's on your side that you're launching the panel from, your gadget will get countered. But if it's not, you can actually put your gadget down and the Aruni Gate still be there. So definitely some pretty wild counters with this operator. You also just have smoke grenades you can use to burn the gate as well. But she's still a pretty notable counter. Now, the final operator that can counter the new operator is Tubarao. So if she tries to deploy a Dom panel on the top of a door just like this, I can throw my Tubarao canister as she's doing it, which will stop it in its tracks, not allowing it to deploy. So that's a pretty cool counter. However, if it does end up deploying, Tubarao can still counter this gadget. If it's all the way on the ground and I put a Tubarao canister on the door, it'll just come all the way back up. And it'll come back in 1 second instead of 3 seconds like it would if a defender were to shoot it. So Tubarao is still a pretty good counter. I don't think you're really going to use this all that much, especially when you have a nitro cell you can use on the door instead, which somehow just completely missed. I don't know how that just happened. Maybe nitro cells don't work if the door's up. That's interesting. Anyways, you get the idea. Tubarao can just freeze it and it can't deploy. Or if it is deployed, it will undeploy completely. One other thing I want to go over is if there is a Scopo shield or a deployable shield on a doorway, you cannot put your Dom launcher on it at all, even from the other side as well. It just will not work. You see, I accidentally deployed it on that doorway. You get the idea. It just does not work. Now, what happens if you try to crush somebody with the doorway? Let's say Scopos like prones on the doorway right here. There you go. Scoot towards me a little. Perfect. Well, let's find out. As you can see, I'm deploying it, but it only goes halfway. So you can't actually kill people with this or crush people. And even if I were in the middle of it just like this, and he tried to deploy the door, it would still only go halfway, as you can see. And then the second that you moved out of the way, it would finish deploying. So you can't decapitate people with the door, unfortunately. But still kind of cool that Scopos or deployable shields can counter the operator. Next up, I want to see what happens when you put other secondary utility under the door, like a set of barbed wire right here. Will it crush the barbed wire, or will it just remain open? As you can see, it's deploying, and it completely destroys the barbed wire. I didn't know that. It's actually a cool thing Rauora can do. She can just deploy that and counter barbed wire. Obviously, that means that any other secondary utility that you deploy will probably get countered as well, like a proximity alarm right here. But it won't do bulletproof utility like a deployable shield, so that's good to know. But out of everything that I've talked about in this video, I think the best way that you can interact with this gadget as a defender, and the best counter to this gadget as a defender, is simply just shooting the target. When I shoot the target, the door will go back up, making it completely useless in the end. It will still give them a sound cue as to when I'm doing it, but it's still pretty counterable. One more thing before I go, though, is you need to know if nobody's next to the door, you can't open or close it. This goes for defenders or attackers. As you can see, the operator is in the very back of dorm, super far away. I'm super far away, and you cannot shoot this thing open at all. But if somebody walks close in the vicinity of it, you're easily able to shoot it. So I think this is going to be pretty good for longer range maps like Bank, or maps with like really long hallways like Canal or Chalet, because people aren't going to be able to counter this from long distances. You have to be up close to it. So maybe we'll see some cool interactions with that. But with it out of the way, I stream every single day on Twitch. Go check that out. And then check out this next YouTube video, and I'll see you there.
That's interesting. I wonder... Dude, I gotta see some strats with that operator. If you guys are excited for the new operator, comment down below. And comment some ideas you guys think you guys would do with the new operator. If you guys enjoy, comment, subscribe. And if you guys are new, like the video, please subscribe. 98% of y'all are not subscribed. So if you guys do like this type of content, just hit the subscribe button and go follow my Twitch, Ace Knows Ball with 3 L's. All right, peace out, YouTube.